Hello and welcome back. Tonight we're going to spend some time thinking about something that's happening right now as you listen to these words. Something quiet and constant, rhythmic and tireless. Something you've probably never actually seen with your own eyes, and yet it's been with you since before you could remember, before you could think, before you even existed as anything recognizable as you. We're talking about your heart, not the Valentine's Day symbol, not the metaphor for love or courage or sadness, but the actual physical heart, that fist-sized muscle in your chest that's been beating since you were the size of a poppy seed and will continue until the very last moment of your life. It's easy to forget it's there. Most of the time you don't feel it, but it's working, always working. Before we begin, I'm curious. How was your day? Was it long, stressful, peaceful, maybe something in between? Whatever it was, I'd love to hear about it. Leave a comment below and let me know, and if you're new here, or if you've been listening for a while and haven't yet, consider subscribing. These videos are here whenever you need them, a quiet place to learn, to wonder, and to let your mind settle. Now let's begin. Your heart beats about 100,000 times every single day without you ever having to think about it. 100,000. It's a number so large it almost loses meaning. Try to picture it. 100,000 grains of rice spread across a table. 100,000 stars in a patch of night sky. 100,000 seconds is more than a full day. And yet, your heart does this. Beats this many times. Every single day of your life. Without you ever asking it to. Without you ever needing to remember. Think about all the things you do consciously. Breathing when you think about it. Blinking when you notice. But your heart, it just goes. While you sleep, while you dream, while you read or eat or argue or laugh or sit in traffic wondering if you'll make it home in time. Your heart is there, beating. Over and over, a rhythm you were born into and will carry until the very end. Over an average lifetime, let's say 80 years give or take, that's more than 2.5 billion beats. Billion. With a B. It's enough to make you stop and think, isn't it? About all the things we take for granted, about the machinery inside us that never stops. Never complains, never asks for recognition. It just keeps time, your own personal metronome, steady and faithful. The human heart is roughly the size of your closed fist, yet it pumps about 2,000 gallons of blood daily. Look at your hand. Make a fist, not too tight. Just a gentle curl of your fingers. That's about the size of your heart. Maybe a bit smaller if you have large hands, maybe a bit bigger if you're young. But that's it. That small, muscular thing, tucked behind your ribs slightly to the left. It doesn't seem like much, does it? And yet, every day, every single day, that little fist-sized organ moves 2,000 gallons of blood through your body. 2,000. Picture it. That's enough to fill a bathtub 20 times over, enough to fill a small backyard swimming pool every single week, all of it moved by something that weighs less than a pound, less than a carton of milk, less than most laptops. The heart doesn't look impressive when you see it in diagrams or medical illustrations. It's lumpy, asymmetrical, kind of unromantic. Nothing like the smooth, symmetrical Valentine hearts we draw. But what it lacks in beauty, it makes up for in sheer, relentless work. Imagine doing any task at all, 2,000 times in a day, lifting a cup, opening a door, saying hello. You'd be exhausted. But the heart doesn't tire, not in the way we understand tiredness. It just keeps going, pumping and pushing, a testament to biological persistence. Your heartbeat actually starts before your brain is fully formed, around 3 weeks after conception. Here's something strange to think about. Before you had thoughts, before you had memories, before you could see or hear or feel in any way we'd recognize, you had a heartbeat. About 3 weeks after conception, when you were barely more than a cluster of cells, smaller than a grain of rice, your heart started beating. Not because your brain told it to. Your brain didn't exist yet, not really. The heart just began. It's one of the first things your body prioritizes, not limbs, not eyes, not even a digestive system. The heart. As if your body knew, on some deep cellular level, that this was the most important thing. Get the pump working, get the blood moving. Everything else can wait. And so it started. A rhythm in the darkness, a pulse in the silence. Before there was you in any conscious sense, there was this beat, and it's been going ever since. The same heart, in a sense. Grown. Yes, larger, stronger. But still the same one that started ticking all those years ago, in the quiet before you were born. Before anyone even knew you were coming. It knew. It was already preparing. The lub-dub sound of your heartbeat is actually the sound of heart valves closing. If you've ever put your ear to someone's chest, maybe as a child resting against a parent or as an adult, lying beside someone you love, you've heard it. Lub-dub, lub-dub, that familiar, soothing rhythm. It's one of the most comforting sounds in the world, isn't it? Proof of life. Proof that everything is still working, still okay. But what are you actually hearing? It's not the heart muscle squeezing as you might imagine. It's the valves. The heart has 4 of them. Little flaps of tissue that open and close to control the flow of blood, making sure it moves in the right direction and doesn't slosh backwards. The lub is the sound of 2 valves closing at once, the mitral and tricuspid valves, shutting after the upper chambers of the heart, the atria, push blood into the lower chambers, the ventricles. Then comes the dub, slightly sharper, slightly shorter. That's the aortic and pulmonary valves slamming shut after the ventricles have squeezed blood out into the arteries. It's mechanical when you think about it, almost industrial. Little doors opening and closing, channeling fluid through a system. And yet, when you hear it, especially in the quiet, in the dark, it sounds like music, like the ticking of a clock that never needs winding, like a lullaby your body has been singing to you since before you were born. Ancient Egyptians believed the heart, not the brain, was the center of intelligence and emotion. The ancient Egyptians had a peculiar relationship with the heart. To them, it wasn't just a pump. It was the seat of the soul, the place where thought happened, where emotions were born, where your very essence lived. The brain, they saw it as more or less useless. When they mummified their dead, they would carefully extract the brain, often by pulling it out through the nose with a hook, and discard it. But the heart? The heart stayed. It was preserved, protected, wrapped carefully inside the chest cavity, because in the afterlife they believed the heart would be weighed. In the Hall of Two Truths, the god Anubis would place the deceased's heart on one side of a scale. On the other side, a feather, the feather of Maat, the goddess of truth and justice. If your heart was light, unburdened by sin and cruelty, it would balance with the feather. You'd be granted passage to the afterlife. But if your heart was heavy with wrongdoing, it would tip the scale, and you'd be devoured by Amit, a demon with the head of a crocodile, the body of a lion, and the hindquarters of a hippopotamus. Oblivion. It's beautiful in a way. The idea that your heart carries the weight of your deeds, that it remembers, that it holds not just blood, but the story of who you were. The heart has its own electrical system and can continue beating even outside the body if it has an adequate oxygen supply. Here's something that sounds like science fiction but is utterly unsettlingly real. If you were to remove a heart from a body, carefully, surgically, with the right conditions, it would keep beating. Not forever, of course, but for a while. As long as it has oxygen and the right nutrients, the heart will continue its rhythm, even in a dish, even disconnected from the brain, the lungs, everything. This is because the heart doesn't need you to tell it what to do. It has its own electrical system, a little cluster of cells in the upper right chamber called the sinoatrial node. This is the heart's natural pacemaker. It generates electrical impulses on its own, sending waves of electricity through the heart muscle, telling it when to contract. The brain can influence the heart, speed it up when you're scared, slow it down when you're calm, but it doesn't control it. The heart is autonomous, self-governing. This is why heart transplants are possible. Surgeons can take a heart from a donor, keep it alive in a special solution, transport it across cities or even countries, and then place it inside someone else's chest. And when the conditions are right, when the blood starts flowing again, the heart just starts. It remembers what it's supposed to do. It doesn't need to be taught. It knows. Your heart pumps blood through about 60,000 miles of blood vessels in your body. 60,000 miles. Let that sit for a moment. If you could somehow unravel all the blood vessels in your body, arteries, veins, capillaries, all of them, and lay them end to end, they'd stretch for 60,000 miles. That's more than twice around the Earth. The entire planet, wrapped in the circulatory system of a single human being. And your heart is responsible for pushing blood through every inch of it, from the thick muscular arteries near your heart to the tiniest capillaries in your fingertips, so small that red blood cells have to squeeze through them one at a time. It's a network of staggering complexity, branching and rebranching, reaching every cell in your body, because every cell needs oxygen, every cell needs nutrients, and the heart delivers. It's hard to fathom, really. The scale of it, the sheer distance your blood travels, looping through your body again and again and again, day after day, year after year. If you could watch a single red blood cell, you'd see it leave your heart, rush through your arteries, slow down in the capillaries, drop off oxygen, pick up carbon dioxide, drift back through your veins, return to your heart, get sent to your lungs, refresh, and start all over again. The whole journey takes about a minute, and your heart orchestrates it all, never stopping, never forgetting. The ancient Greek physician Galen believed the heart was a furnace that heated the blood. For more than 1,000 years, the most influential model of the heart came from a man named Galen, a Greek physician who lived in the 2nd century. He was brilliant, revolutionary even, but he got some things very, very wrong. Galen believed the heart was a furnace, a source of heat. He thought blood was produced in the liver, travelled to the heart to be warmed, and then was consumed by the body like fuel. He didn't understand circulation. He didn't realise that blood flows in a loop, that the same blood keeps coming back over and over. It wasn't until 1628, nearly 1,500 years later, that an English physician named William Harvey figured it out. Harvey observed the heart carefully, did experiments, measured blood flow, and realised the blood isn't consumed, it circulates. The heart isn't a furnace, it's a pump, a brilliant, elegant, tireless pump. But here's the thing, Galen wasn't entirely wrong. The heart does generate heat. Every time your heart muscle contracts, it produces warmth, and blood does carry that warmth throughout your body, helping to regulate your temperature. So maybe Galen's metaphor was closer to the truth than he knew. Not a furnace exactly, but a source of warmth nonetheless, a fire that never goes out. A woman's heart typically beats slightly faster than a man's heart, about 78 beats per minute compared to 70. It's a small difference, 8 beats per minute, barely noticeable. If you were sitting next to someone, you probably couldn't tell. But over time, those 8 extra beats add up. Over the course of a day, that's about 11,520 more beats. Over a year, more than 4 million. Over a lifetime, hundreds of millions. Why the difference? Partly because women, on average, yes, have smaller hearts and smaller bodies. A smaller heart has to beat a bit faster to move the same amount of blood. Partly because of hormones. Estrogen and other female hormones influence heart rate in subtle ways. And partly because of differences in the autonomic nervous system, the part of your nervous system that controls things you don't think about, like heart rate and digestion. But here's what's interesting. Despite beating faster, women's hearts are in many ways more resilient, and women tend to have a lower risk of heart disease than men, at least until after menopause. Their hearts are smaller but mighty, quick but enduring. It's a reminder that there's no one-size-fits-all when it comes to the heart. Every heart is unique, shaped by genetics, by lifestyle, by the body it inhabits, and every heart finds its own rhythm. The heart muscle never gets tired like your skeletal muscles do during exercise. Think about the last time you worked out. Maybe you went for a run, or lifted weights, or climbed stairs. At some point your muscles got tired. They started to burn, to ache, to tremble. You had to stop, rest, let them recover. That's normal. Skeletal muscles, the ones you use to move, aren't built for continuous work. They're built for bursts of activity followed by rest. But your heart never stops, never rests, and yet it never gets tired in the way your biceps or your calves do. Why? Because cardiac muscle, the special type of muscle that makes up your heart, is different. It's packed with mitochondria, the tiny power plants inside your cells that generate energy. Cardiac muscle cells have more mitochondria than almost any other cell in your body. They're like little engines, constantly producing fuel, constantly keeping the heart going. And the heart is smart about energy. It doesn't burn through everything at once. It uses oxygen efficiently, switches between different fuel sources, fats, sugars, even proteins if it has to, and paces itself. It's a marathon runner, not a sprinter, built for endurance, for the long haul, for a lifetime of beating without complaint. Your heart pumps oxygenated blood to every cell in your body except the corneas of your eyes. It's almost poetic in a way. Your heart is the great provider, the generous giver. It sends oxygen-rich blood to your brain, your muscles, your skin, your organs, everywhere. Every single cell in your body depends on it, except for one place. Your corneas, the clear curved surface at the front of your eyes that lets light in. Those don't get blood from your heart. They get their oxygen directly from the air. Think about that for a moment. Your corneas are exposed to the world in a way nothing else inside you is. They're in direct contact with the atmosphere, and so they've adapted. They breathe in their own way. Oxygen dissolves into the tear film that covers your eyes, and the corneal cells absorb it from there. It's why keeping your eyes moist is so important. It's why you blink, to spread that tear film to keep the oxygen flowing. The heart doesn't seem to mind. It has enough to do, pumping blood to the trillions of other cells that need it. But there's something quietly beautiful about this exception. Yeah, about the fact that your eyes, the windows through which you see the world, are just independent enough to take care of themselves. They don't need the heart's help for this one thing. They have their own arrangement with the air, their own quiet deal with the atmosphere. Blue whales have hearts the size of a small car weighing about 400 pounds. Imagine standing next to a blue whale's heart. Not the whale itself. That's almost incomprehensible. A creature so large it defies the imagination. But just the heart. It would come up to your chest, maybe higher. 400 pounds. The size of a small car like a compact sedan. You could, in theory, crawl through the aorta, the main artery coming out of it. Not that you'd want to, but you could. And this massive heart beats. Slowly. Very slowly. When a blue whale is diving deep, its heart rate can drop to just 2 beats per minute. 2. 1 beat, then 30 seconds of silence. Then another beat. It's hard to even call that a rhythm. It's more like punctuation. A slow, deliberate marking of time in the cold, dark depths of the ocean. But when the whale surfaces, when it needs to move fast or breathe or exert itself, the heart speeds up. Maybe to 25 or 30 beats per minute. Still slow by our standards. Your resting heart rate is probably more than twice that. But for a creature that size, it's enough. More than enough. Because each beat moves an enormous volume of blood. Gallons and gallons with every squeeze. It makes you think about scale, about how the fundamental design, a pump, a rhythm, a circulation system, works whether you're a shrew or a whale. The heart adapts, it scales, it finds a way. The right side of your heart pumps blood to your lungs, while the left side pumps it to the rest of your body. Your heart isn't really one pump, it's two. 2 pumps working side by side, separated by a muscular wall called the septum, beating in perfect synchrony. The right side and the left side, each with its own job, each essential. The right side receives blood that's returned from your body, tired blood in a sense, blood that's delivered its oxygen and picked up carbon dioxide, the waste product of your cells doing their work. This blood is darker, a deep maroon, almost purple. The right side doesn't have to work very hard. It just pumps this blood a short distance to your lungs, where the blood releases carbon dioxide and picks up fresh oxygen. Then it comes back to the left side of the heart. The left side has a bigger job. It receives this newly oxygenated blood from the lungs, bright red now, rich and full, and pumps it out to the entire body, to your brain, your toes, your fingertips, everywhere. That's a lot of work, a lot of pressure, which is why the left side of your heart, especially the left ventricle, is much thicker and more muscular than the right. It needs to be strong. It needs to generate enough force to push blood through 60,000 miles of vessels. But here's the beautiful part. They work together perfectly. The right side fills while the left side squeezes. The left side fills while the right side squeezes. Always in sync. Always coordinated. Two halves of a whole. Two partners in an endless dance. Your heart creates enough pressure when it pumps to squirt blood 30 feet across a room. This is one of those facts that sounds made up, like something from a cartoon or a bad horror movie. But it's true. When your heart contracts, specifically when the left ventricle squeezes, it generates a tremendous amount of pressure. Enough pressure that if an artery were severed, blood could spray 30 feet. Maybe more. Of course, this doesn't happen under normal circumstances. Your blood vessels are designed to contain that pressure, to channel it, to use it productively. Arteries are thick and elastic, are built to withstand the surge of blood with every heartbeat. They expand slightly when the pressure wave hits, then recoil, helping to push the blood along. It's an elegant system, efficient, safe. But the fact that this potential exists, that your heart is that powerful, is astonishing. We think of the heart as gentle, maybe because we associate it with love and tenderness, but it's not gentle, it's strong. Remarkably, almost violently strong. A small, tireless engine generating force continuously, relentlessly, every second of your life. And you don't feel it most of the time. You might feel your pulse, the ripple of pressure travelling through your arteries. But the sheer force of it, that's hidden, quiet, working behind the scenes, keeping you alive with a power you rarely appreciate. The study of the heart and its disorders is called cardiology, from the Greek word cardia, meaning heart. Words carry history. When we say cardiology, we're reaching back thousands of years to ancient Greece to a word, cardia, that meant heart. But cardia meant more than just the physical organ. It meant the center, the core, the seat of emotion and courage and life itself. The Greeks gave us other words from this root too. Cardiac, obviously, but also courage. In Latin, cor meant heart, and cœur in French. To have courage, courage, literally meant to have heart. To be brave was to act from the heart, not the head. The Romans believed this. So did the medieval knights. So do we, in a way, even now, even though we know that bravery is a function of brain chemistry and neural pathways, not cardiac tissue. But the metaphor persists. We still talk about people having a lot of heart, about wearing your heart on your sleeve, about heartbreak and heartache and following your heart. The language betrays our ancient belief that the heart is more than a pump, that it's somehow central to who we are, to what we feel. Maybe the Greeks were onto something. Not literally, of course. The heart doesn't think or feel emotions, that's the brain's job, but metaphorically, symbolically. The heart is central. It keeps us alive. It beats in our chests as a constant reminder that we're here, that we exist, that time is passing, one beat at a time. A hummingbird's heart beats up to 1,200 times per minute during flight, 1,200 beats per minute. That's 20 beats every single second. If you tried to count them out loud, 1, 2, 3, you'd never keep up. It would blur into a hum, which is fitting, because that's how the hummingbird got its name, from the hum of its wings. But its heart is humming too in its own way, a frantic, invisible buzz of motion. Even at rest, a hummingbird's heart beats about 250 times per minute. 250. Your resting heart rate is probably somewhere between 60 and 80. Maybe 90 if you're anxious or have had too much coffee, but 250. That's more than 3 beats per second. Just sitting there, just existing. Hummingbirds live fast. They have to. They're tiny. Some species weigh less than a penny, and they burn energy at an absurd rate. Their metabolism is so high that they have to eat constantly, consuming more than their body weight in nectar every single day. If they don't, they'll starve. At night, when they can't feed, they go into a state called torpor, a kind of hibernation, where their heart rate drops to as low as 50 beats per minute to conserve energy. It's a hard life in a way, everything dialed up to the maximum, but there's something beautiful about it too, about living so intensely, so brightly, even if it means you only get a few years. The hummingbird doesn't seem to mind. It hovers, it sips, its heart races, and it's enough. Your heart rate variability, the time between heartbeats, is actually a sign of good health. You might think a healthy heart beats like a metronome, perfectly regular, tick-tock, tick-tock, the same interval every time, but that's not quite right. A healthy heart actually has a bit of variability. The time between beats changes slightly, constantly, in response to tiny fluctuations in your breathing, your thoughts, your body's needs. One beat might come 0.9 seconds after the last. The next might come 1.1 seconds later, then 0.95, then 1.05. This is called heart rate variability, or HRV, and it's a good thing. It means your heart is responsive, adaptable. It's not locked into a rigid pattern. It can adjust on the fly, speeding up a little when you inhale, slowing down a little when you exhale. This flexibility is a sign of a healthy autonomic nervous system, the part of your nervous system that controls automatic functions like heart rate, digestion, and breathing. When you're stressed or unwell, HRV tends to decrease. The heart becomes more rigid, less variable. It loses some of its ability to adapt. But when you're relaxed, when you meditate or do deep breathing exercises, HRV increases. The heart becomes more fluid, more responsive. It's like the difference between a dancer and a robot. Both can move, but only one can improvise. So if your heart isn't perfectly regular, don't worry. That little bit of chaos, that gentle variation, is a sign that everything's working the way it should. The first successful human heart transplant was performed in 1967 by Dr. Christian Barnard in South Africa. December the 3rd, 1967, Cape Town, South Africa. A surgical team led by Dr. Christian Barnard worked through the night, attempting something that had never been done before. They removed the failing heart of a 54-year-old man named Louis Washkansky and replaced it with the heart of a young woman who had died in a car accident. It took 9 hours. When they were finished, they stepped back and they waited. And then the new heart started beating. Washkansky lived for 18 days, not long by most measures. He died from pneumonia, a complication of the immunosuppressive drugs he needed to prevent his body from rejecting the donor heart. But these 18 days changed medicine forever. They proved it could be done, that a heart could be moved from one person to another, that life could be extended, borrowed, shared. Now, more than 50 years later, heart transplants are almost routine. Thousands are performed every year. People live for decades with someone else's heart beating in their chest. It's extraordinary when you stop to think about it, the intimacy of it, someone else's rhythm becoming your own, someone's last heartbeat in one body becoming a first heartbeat in another. Washkansky knew the risks. He knew he might not survive, but he wanted to try. He wanted those extra days, weeks, months, however many he could get, and in a way, he's still living. His name is remembered, his courage is remembered, and the door he helped open is still open, still saving lives. Your heart has 4 chambers, 2 upper atria and 2 lower ventricles. 4 chambers. It sounds simple when you say it like that. 2 on top, 2 on the bottom. The atria, from the Latin word for entrance hall, are the upper chambers. They're smaller, with thinner walls. They receive blood returning to the heart. The right atrium receives dark, deoxygenated blood from the body. The left atrium receives bright, oxygenated blood from the lungs. Then there are the ventricles, from the Latin word for little belly. These are the lower chambers, the workhorses. They're larger, more muscular, especially the left ventricle. They're the ones that do the heavy pumping. The right ventricle sends blood to the lungs. The left ventricle sends blood to everywhere else. This 4-chamber design didn't appear overnight. It's the result of hundreds of millions of years of evolution. Fish have 2 chambers. Amphibians and most reptiles have 3. Birds and mammals, warm-blooded creatures with high metabolisms, have 4. It's the most efficient design for keeping oxygenated and deoxygenated blood separate, for maintaining high blood pressure, for supporting an active, energetic lifestyle. And it works beautifully. The atria contract first, topping off the ventricles. Then the ventricles contract, pushing blood out. Then everything relaxes and the chambers fill again. Over and over, a sequence that's been refined over eons, running in your chest right now, exactly as it ran in the chests of your ancestors and their ancestors all the way back. Broken heart syndrome, or Takotsubo cardiomyopathy, is a real medical condition triggered by intense emotional stress. You've probably heard someone say they died of a broken heart. Usually it's metaphorical. a way of describing grief so profound it seems physical. But sometimes, rarely, but sometimes, it's real. There's a condition called Takotsubo cardiomyopathy, more commonly known as broken heart syndrome, and it can happen after intense emotional trauma, the death of a loved one, a devastating breakup, a shocking piece of news. What happens is this: stress hormones, adrenaline mostly, flood the heart in such high concentrations that they temporarily stun the muscle. The left ventricle, the heart's main pumping chamber, weakens and balloons out, taking on a shape that resembles a Japanese octopus trap called a takotsubo, hence the name. The symptoms mimic a heart attack: chest pain, shortness of breath, irregular heartbeat. People rush to the hospital thinking they're dying, and in rare cases they are. Broken heart syndrome can be fatal, but most of the time, with treatment and rest, the heart recovers. Within weeks or months, it returns to its normal shape and function. The body heals. The heart, resilient as always, finds its rhythm again. It's proof, in a way, that the heart and the mind are connected more deeply than we sometimes acknowledge. That emotional pain isn't just in your head, it's in your chest too, in your cells, in the very muscle that keeps you alive. The heart develops from a simple tube early in embryonic development and twists into its familiar shape. In the very beginning, back when you were barely a few weeks old, still forming in the darkness, your heart wasn't a heart yet. It was a tube, a simple straight tube of cells, that's all. And then something remarkable happened. The tube began to twist. It looped to the right, then folded back on itself, coiling like a garden hose being wound up. Certain sections bulged and expanded, becoming chambers. Other sections narrowed, becoming valves and vessels. The tube transformed, originating from something linear and simple into something complex and three-dimensional. A shape that could pump. A shape that could sustain life. Most of the time, this twisting happens in a predictable direction. The heart loops to the right, and the chambers end up in their usual positions: left ventricle on the left, right ventricle on the right. But occasionally, very rarely, the tube loops the other way. The heart develops in mirror image, with all the chambers reversed. It's called dextrocardia, a heart on the right side of the chest instead of the left. People with this condition usually live completely normal lives. The heart works just fine. It's just backwards. It makes you wonder about the precision required for development. How many things have to go exactly right for a tube to become a heart? How many signals? How many chemical gradients? How many tiny decisions made by cells that don't have brains or intentions, but somehow know what to do? And most of the time, almost every time, they get it right. Laughing is good for your heart. It improves blood vessel function and increases blood flow. There's something to be said for laughter. Not polite chuckling or forced smiles, but real laughter. The kind that catches you off guard, that shakes your whole body, that makes your stomach hurt and your eyes water. That kind of laughter is good for you, and not just in a vague feel-good way. It's literally good for your heart. When you laugh, really laugh, your blood vessels dilate. They relax and open up, allowing blood to flow more easily. The effect can last for up to 45 minutes after you stop laughing. Your blood pressure drops slightly. Your heart rate might increase during the laughter itself, but afterward, it settles into a calmer, more relaxed rhythm. It's almost like a mini workout for your cardiovascular system, but without the sweat. Some researchers estimate that just 15 minutes of laughter a day could reduce your risk of cardiovascular disease. 15 minutes? That's less time than most people spend scrolling through their phones before bed. And the mechanism isn't fully understood. It's probably a combination of stress reduction, improved mood, changes in hormone levels, but the effect is real, measurable, documented in study after study. So maybe laughter really is the best medicine, or at least one of them. A free, accessible, deeply human way to care for the organ that's been caring for you since before you could remember. It's nice, isn't it? That something as simple and joyful as laughter can make your heart healthier, stronger, more resilient. The fairy fly, one of the world's smallest insects, has a heart smaller than the period at the end of this sentence. Scale is a strange thing. We tend to think of hearts as fist-sized, maybe larger for big animals, maybe smaller for small ones. But when you get down to the truly tiny, insects, mites, microscopic creatures, the heart becomes almost impossibly small. Take the fairy fly. It's a type of parasitic wasp, and it's one of the smallest insects in the world. The entire insect is only about 0.2 millimeters long, smaller than a grain of salt, and somewhere inside that minuscule body there's a heart, or something like a heart. A tiny tube that pulses, that moves fluid through the insect's body. It's not a heart in the way we'd recognize it. No chambers, no valves, just a simple contractile vessel. But it serves the same purpose. It circulates hemolymph, insect blood, to deliver nutrients and carry away waste. You couldn't see it with the naked eye. Even under a microscope it would be difficult to make out. And yet it works. It beats. It keeps that tiny creature alive, allows it to fly, to reproduce, to go about its strange little life. There's something humbling about that. About the fact that the same basic principle, circulation, rhythm, flow, applies whether you're a human or a fairy fly. Life finds a way to pump, to keep things moving, no matter how small. Your heart rate naturally synchronizes with music you're listening to, especially slower rhythms. Have you ever noticed how music can change the way you feel? How a fast, driving beat can energize you, make you want to move? How a slow, gentle melody can calm you, make you want to close your eyes and breathe? It's not just psychological, it's physiological. Your heart listens to music, and it responds. When you listen to music with a slow tempo, 60 to 80 beats per minute, around the range of a resting heart rate, your heart tends to slow down to match it. It's called entrainment, the tendency of rhythmic systems to synchronize. Your heart isn't consciously trying to match the music, of course, but your autonomic nervous system picks up on the rhythm, and gradually, subtly, your heartbeat adjusts. This is why calming music before bed can help you fall asleep. Why hospitals sometimes play soft music in recovery rooms. Why people instinctively hum or sing lullabies to babies. The rhythm seeps in, it settles, it tells your heart, and by extension your whole body, that it's okay to slow down, to relax, to let go, and it works the other way too. Fast music, 120, 140 beats per minute, can make your heart speed up, can pump adrenaline, can prepare you for action. Athletes know this. They listen to intense music before competitions, but for sleep, for rest, well, for those quiet moments when you need your body to wind down, slow rhythms, gentle beats, music that matches the pace of a heart at peace. The sinoatrial node, your heart's natural pacemaker, generates electrical impulses about 60 to 100 times per minute. There's a small patch of tissue in your heart, about the size of a grain of rice, tucked into the wall of the right atrium. It's called the sinoatrial node, or SAA node for short, and it's arguably the most important part of your heart, because this is where the rhythm starts. The SA node is made up of specialized cells that have a unique property. They spontaneously generate electrical impulses. They don't need a signal from the brain. They don't need a trigger from somewhere else. They just fire. About 60 to 100 times per minute on their own, these cells depolarize and send out a wave of electricity. That electrical wave spreads across the atria, causing them to contract. Then it travels down to another node, the atrioventricular node, which delays the signal just slightly before passing it on to the ventricles. This delay is crucial. It gives the atria time to finish squeezing blood into the ventricles before the ventricles contract. Everything is timed perfectly, coordinated, orchestrated by this tiny cluster of cells that never stops working. If the SA node fails, if it gets damaged or diseased, the heart can still beat. Other cells in the heart can generate impulses, though more slowly, less reliably. But the SA node is the conductor, the natural leader, the part of your heart that sets the tempo for the symphony of your life, and it's been doing this since before you were born, without you ever asking, without you ever needing to think about it. During your lifetime, your heart will pump approximately 1.5 million barrels of blood. 1.5 million barrels. Try to picture that. A barrel holds about 42 gallons, 1.5 million of them, lined up. They'd stretch for miles, stacked. They'd tower higher than the tallest skyscrapers, and all of that blood, every drop of it, pumped by a single organ. Your heart. It's enough to fill 200 train tank cars, enough to fill dozens of Olympic swimming pools, enough to supply a small town with water for a year. And it all moves through you, through your veins and arteries, through your heart, over and over, day after day, decade after decade. The heart doesn't do this all at once, of course. It does it gradually, a little more than a gallon every minute, 2,000 gallons a day, about 730,000 gallons a year, and it adds up. Over 70, 80, 90 years, it becomes this staggering, almost incomprehensible volume. But here's the thing, you never have to think about it. You never have to schedule it or plan for it or remind your heart to keep going. It just does, quietly, faithfully, moving blood, sustaining life, one beat at a time. It's easy to take for granted, but maybe, every once in a while, it's worth pausing to appreciate, to acknowledge the sheer, relentless work your heart does, every moment of your existence. Athletes' hearts can grow larger and stronger, a benign condition called athlete's heart. If you're an endurance athlete, a marathon runner, a cyclist, a swimmer, your heart adapts. It has to. You're asking it to do more work, to pump more blood, to sustain higher levels of activity for longer periods of time. And so, over months and years of training, the heart responds. It grows. The chambers enlarge slightly. The walls thicken, especially in the left ventricle. The heart becomes more efficient, pumping more blood with each beat. An athlete's resting heart rate can drop to 40 or even 30 beats per minute, far below the normal range of 60 to 100. But this isn't a problem, it's a sign of efficiency. The heart doesn't need to beat as often because each beat is so much more powerful. This is called athlete's heart, and it's completely benign. It's not a disease, it's an adaptation, a normal response to the demands placed on the body. When athletes retire and stop training at such high levels, the heart gradually returns to a more typical size. It's flexible, responsive, always adjusting to the life you're living. There's something reassuring about this, isn't there? The fact that the heart can change, can grow, can become stronger when you ask it to. It's not fixed or rigid. It's dynamic. It meets you where you are, and if you give it a reason to improve, to adapt, to rise to a challenge, it will. The ancient Chinese believed the heart housed the mind and spirit, calling it the emperor of all organs. In traditional Chinese medicine, the heart wasn't just a pump, it was the emperor, the ruler of the body, the seat of consciousness, thought, and emotion. The Chinese character for heart, Xin, X as in, is used in words related to thinking, feeling, and intention. To think was to use your heart. To feel was to experience something in your heart. The heart was seen as the organ that housed the Shen, often translated as spirit or mind. A healthy heart meant a clear, calm mind. A disturbed heart meant anxiety, insomnia, scattered thoughts. Even today, traditional Chinese medicine views emotional and mental health as deeply connected to heart function. If you're restless, if you can't sleep, if your thoughts race, the diagnosis might involve the heart. It's a different way of thinking about the body, not as a collection of separate parts, each with a specific mechanical function, but as an integrated whole where physical and emotional health are inseparable, where the heart is central not just to circulation, but to consciousness itself. We know now that the brain is where thinking happens, where emotions are processed. But maybe the ancient Chinese weren't entirely wrong. The heart does respond to emotions. It does change its rhythm when you're happy or sad or afraid. And there are neurons in the heart, thousands of them, sometimes called the heart brain, capable of processing information independently. The heart is more than a pump. It's a participant in the experience of being alive. Your heart beats about 115,000 times per day if you're an adult, but newborns' hearts beat around 190,000 times daily. Babies are in a hurry, their hearts race. A newborn's heart beats anywhere from 120 to 160 times per minute, sometimes even faster. That's more than twice the rate of an adult's resting heart. Over the course of a day, that adds up to about 190,000 beats, almost double what an adult heart does. Why so fast? Because babies are growing rapidly. Their cells are dividing, their organs are developing, their bodies are building themselves from scratch. All of that requires energy, oxygen, nutrients, and the heart is responsible for delivering it all. So it works over time, beating faster, pumping harder, ensuring that every cell gets what it needs. As children grow, their heart rate gradually slows. By the time they're teenagers, it's close to adult levels. By the time they're elderly, it might slow even more. The heart adjusts to the body's needs. In infancy, those needs are immense. The heart rises to meet them, never complaining, never faltering, just beating relentlessly, giving that tiny body everything it needs to grow into a person. It's exhausting just to think about, isn't it? The sheer work of it. But the heart doesn't get tired. It doesn't know how. It just keeps time, one beat at a time, from the first day of life to the last. The heart is the only muscle that never stops working from the moment it starts until the day you die. Think about every other muscle in your body, your legs, your arms, even the muscles that control breathing. They all rest. They all get breaks. When you sleep, most of your muscles relax. When you sit still, they're inactive. Even your diaphragm, which controls breathing, pauses between breaths, a moment of stillness before the next inhale. But your heart never stops, never pauses, never takes a break. From the moment it starts beating, around 3 weeks after conception, until the moment it stops, whenever that may be, it's in constant motion, contracting and relaxing, contracting and relaxing. Over and over, billions of times. It's the only muscle in your body that has to be this relentless, and it's built for it. The cardiac muscle cells are different from skeletal muscle. They're connected in a way that allows them to contract in waves, in perfect synchrony. They're packed with mitochondria to generate endless energy. They're designed for endurance, not strength, for persistence, not power, and they succeed. Decade after decade, the heart keeps working. It's the ultimate marathon runner, the most faithful companion you'll ever have, present from your very beginning to your very end, beating in your chest right now, quietly, patiently, waiting for nothing, asking for nothing, just being, just doing its job, forever, or as close to forever as anything in this life can be. A giraffe's heart weighs about 25 pounds and must generate nearly double the blood pressure of a human heart. Imagine the challenge. You're a giraffe. Your brain is sitting at the top of a neck that's 15, sometimes 18 feet long, and that brain needs blood, oxygenated blood, constantly. But blood is heavy. It doesn't want to flow upward. Gravity pulls it down, always down. So how do you get blood all the way up there? You build a heart that can handle it. A giraffe's heart weighs about 25 pounds, roughly the size of a large watermelon, and it generates blood pressure nearly twice that of a human. Around 280 over 180 millimeters of mercury compared to our 120 over 80. That's enormous pressure, enough to push blood up that impossibly long neck against gravity, beat after beat. But here's the problem. When a giraffe bends down to drink water, all that blood rushes to its head. The sudden change in pressure could cause a stroke, burst blood vessels in the brain. So giraffes have evolved special adaptations, valves in their neck arteries, a network of small blood vessels at the base of the brain that absorbs the shock. Elastic blood vessels that can expand and contract to regulate flow. The whole system is engineered for this specific challenge, and it works. The giraffe drinks. It lifts its head. The blood flows where it needs to go. The heart pumps, powerful and precise, managing pressures that would overwhelm a human cardiovascular system. It's a reminder that hearts aren't one size fits all. They're adapted, specialized, built for the life they need to sustain. The heart continues to beat for a few minutes after decapitation in some animals. This is unsettling maybe, but it's true, and it tells us something important about how the heart works. In some animals, turtles for instance, or chickens, the heart will continue beating for several minutes after the head is removed, sometimes longer. There are stories of turtle hearts beating for hours after death. This happens because the heart doesn't depend on the brain to beat. It has its own electrical system, its own command center in the sinoatrial node. As long as the heart has oxygen and nutrients, it will keep trying to do its job. It doesn't know the body is dead. It doesn't receive that information. It just knows. Contract, relax, contract, relax. That's what it's programmed to do. So it does. Eventually, of course, it stops. Without circulation, without oxygen being delivered to the heart muscle itself, the cells begin to die. The electrical signals weaken and fade. The rhythm becomes irregular, then stops altogether. But for those few minutes, the heart persists, independent, autonomous, a testament to its remarkable self-sufficiency. It's a strange thought, isn't it? That the heart is so separate from conscious control, so independent from the brain, that it can outlive the organism it belongs to, if only briefly. A last echo of life, a final rhythm fading into silence. Your emotional state can actually change the electromagnetic field generated by your heart. Your heart generates electricity. We know this. It's how the heart beats, through electrical impulses. But electricity creates electromagnetic fields, and your heart produces the strongest electromagnetic field of any organ in your body. It radiates outward from your chest in all directions, measurable several feet away with sensitive instruments. And here's what's fascinating. The pattern of this electromagnetic field changes depending on your emotional state. When you're stressed, angry, or frustrated, the heart's rhythm becomes erratic, chaotic. The electromagnetic signal reflects this, jagged, irregular, disordered. But when you're feeling calm, grateful, or loving, the heart's rhythm becomes more coherent, more smooth and wave-like. The electromagnetic field reflects this too, harmonious, organized, regular. The researchers at the HeartMath Institute have studied this extensively. They've found that these electromagnetic patterns can actually be detected by other people nearby, though we're not consciously aware of it. There's a kind of invisible communication happening between hearts. A silent exchange of information carried on electromagnetic waves. It makes you wonder, when you're in the presence of someone who's calm and centered, and you feel yourself relaxing, is it just psychological? Or is your heart literally sensing their heart's electromagnetic field and synchronizing with it? We don't fully understand the mechanism, but the effect is real, measurable. Your emotional state doesn't just live in your mind, it radiates from your heart, out into the space around you. The mitral valve, which controls blood flow from the left atrium to the left ventricle, is named after a bishop's mitre. Sometimes anatomy is poetry. The mitral valve, one of the 4 valves in your heart, sits between the left atrium and the left ventricle. It's a crucial valve, one of the hardest working, because it has to handle the high pressure blood flow on the left side of the heart. And someone centuries ago looked at this valve and thought, it looks like a bishop's hat. A mitre is the tall, pointed ceremonial headwear worn by bishops and other high-ranking clergy. It has 2 flaps that rise to peaks, creating a distinctive shape. And the mitral valve, with its 2 leaflets, has a similar appearance when closed, so that's what they called it, the mitral valve, a little piece of religious imagery embedded in cardiac anatomy. The other valves have different names with different origins. The tricuspid valve has 3 leaflets, tri, meaning 3. The aortic and pulmonary valves are named for the vessels they control, but the mitral valve stands alone, carrying this odd, sacred reference. A bishop's mitre, tucked inside your chest, opening and closing 70, 80, 100 times a minute, allowing blood to flow forward, preventing it from flowing back. It's a reminder that early anatomists were trying to make sense of what they were seeing, often for the first time. They gave names based on what things looked like, on what they reminded them of, and sometimes those names stuck. So now, forever, we have a valve named after a piece of religious clothing, beating quietly in millions of hearts around the world. Fish have 2-chambered hearts, reptiles typically have 3, and birds and mammals have 4. Evolution is a slow process. But when you trace the history of the heart across different species, you can see a clear progression, a story of increasing complexity, driven by the demands of different lifestyles. Fish have the simplest hearts, 2 chambers, 1 atrium, 1 ventricle. Blood flows from the heart to the gills, where it picks up oxygen and then continues to the rest of the body before returning to the heart. It's a single circuit, simple, efficient enough for cold-blooded creatures that don't need to maintain a constant body temperature. Amphibians and most reptiles have 3 chambers, 2 atria, and 1 ventricle. This allows some separation of oxygenated and deoxygenated blood, though they still mix a bit in the single ventricle. It's a step up, more efficient, better suited for animals that spend time both in water and on land, or that have moderate activity levels. Then came birds and mammals with 4 chambers, 2 atria, 2 ventricles, complete separation of oxygenated and deoxygenated blood. The right side of the heart handles deoxygenated blood, sending it to the lungs. The left side handles oxygenated blood, sending it to the body. No mixing, maximum efficiency. This design supports warm-bloodedness, high metabolism, sustained activity, the ability to fly, to run, to think complex thoughts. Your 4-chambered heart is the product of hundreds of millions of years of evolution, a design refined over countless generations, tested in countless bodies, surviving because it worked, and it still works, in you, right now. The same basic architecture that beats in the chest of a mouse, a whale, a hummingbird, a human. The heart begins beating at a steady rhythm before the body has developed nerves to control it. Before you had a nervous system, before you had anything that could be called a brain, your heart was already beating. It's one of the strangest, most beautiful facts about development. The heart starts on its own. It doesn't wait for instructions. It doesn't need to be told. The cells that will become your heart simply begin to pulse, rhythmically, automatically, around 21 or 22 days after conception. At this point, you're tiny, barely visible. The heart is just a tube, not yet the complex four-chambered organ it will become, but it's already working, already creating a rhythm, already pushing fluid, not quite blood yet, but close, through the nascent vessels forming in your body. The nerves come later, the vagus nerve, which will eventually slow the heart down when you're calm, doesn't make its connection until weeks later. The sympathetic nervous system, which speeds the heart up during stress, develops later still. But the heart doesn't wait. It can't wait. Near every cell in your developing body needs nutrients, needs oxygen, needs waste removed. And the heart somehow knows this, or doesn't know, but does it anyway. Acts on programming written into its cells at a level deeper than thought, deeper than awareness. It's been beating ever since. Through every moment of your life, the heart has been there, keeping time, keeping you alive. It started before you were conscious, and it will continue until the very end, long after consciousness fades. The first rhythm you ever knew, the last one you'll ever hear. Every minute your heart pumps about 1.5 gallons of blood through your circulatory system, 1.5 gallons, every minute. It doesn't sound like that much maybe, a gallon of milk, half of another. But think about it happening continuously. Every minute of every hour of every day. That's 90 gallons an hour, over 2,000 gallons a day. And in that single minute, those 60 seconds, the blood your heart pumps completes a full circuit through your entire body. It leaves the left ventricle, shoots into the aorta, branches into smaller and smaller arteries, reaches the tiniest capillaries in your fingers and toes and organs, releases oxygen and nutrients, picks up carbon dioxide and waste, collects in veins, flows back to the right side of your heart, gets pumped to your lungs, refreshes with oxygen, then returns to the left side of your heart and starts all over again, all in about a minute. Some of it happens faster. Blood travelling to your brain might complete the circuit in 15 or 20 seconds. Some takes longer. Blood going to your feet has farther to travel. But on average, around a minute. Which means the same blood you're thinking about right now will have cycled through your entire body several times before you finish reading this sentence. It's dizzying, really. The speed of it, the efficiency, the fact that it's happening right now as you sit or lie here, as you read these words. Your heart is pumping, your blood is flowing, and you probably didn't even notice until just this moment. The oldest known heart belonged to a 380 million year old fish fossil discovered in Australia. In 2022, researchers in Western Australia found something extraordinary. A fossil of an ancient armoured fish called a placoderm, preserved in remarkable detail. And inside that fossil, mineralised, turned to stone over hundreds of millions of years, was a heart. The oldest heart ever discovered, 380 million years old. It's hard to even conceive of that much time. 380 million years ago, there were no dinosaurs, no mammals, no birds. Life was just beginning to crawl out of the oceans onto land, and yet there were fish, and those fish had hearts. Hearts that look surprisingly similar to ours, at least in basic structure. 2 chambers, an atrium and a ventricle, arranged in a specific configuration. The preservation was almost miraculous. Usually soft tissues decay quickly, leaving only bones and shells behind. But in this case, the conditions were just right. Minerals seeped into the tissues, replacing them cell by cell, creating a stone replica so detailed that researchers could identify chambers, vessels, even the position of the heart within the body cavity. It tells us something important. The heart, the basic design of a pump that moves blood, is ancient, older than forests, older than insects with wings. It's a solution that evolution found early and has been refining ever since. That Placoderm's heart and your heart are separated by 380 million years, but they share the same fundamental purpose, the same essential design, beating in the darkness, keeping life moving forward. Your heart shifts position slightly every time you breathe. Your chest is crowded. Your heart, your lungs, your major blood vessels, they all share the same space, packed together, separated by thin membranes. And when you breathe, when your lungs expand and contract, everything moves. Your heart shifts, just a little. When you inhale, your lungs fill with air and expand. They push against the heart, nudging it slightly to the left and down. When you exhale, your lungs deflate and the heart shifts back. It's a gentle, rhythmic dance. Breath and heartbeat, moving together, influencing each other. You can feel this if you pay attention. Lie very still, place your hand over your heart and breathe slowly. You might notice that your heartbeat seems to speed up slightly when you inhale and slow down slightly when you exhale. This is called respiratory sinus arrhythmia, and it's completely normal, healthy even. It's a sign that your heart and lungs are communicating, coordinating their efforts. There's something comforting about this, isn't it? The way your body's systems work together, not in isolation but in conversation. The heart listening to the lungs creating space for the heart, both of them adjusting, accommodating, finding harmony in the constant motion of staying alive. Some people are born with their heart on the right side, a rare condition called dextrocardia. Most of the time during embryonic development, the heart tube loops to the right and ends up with its apex pointing to the left. That's why you feel your heartbeat on the left side of your chest. But every once in a while, about 1 in every 12,000 births, the heart loops the opposite direction. It develops in mirror image, with all the chambers reversed. The apex points to the right instead of the left. This is called dextrocardia, from the Latin dexter, right, and cardia, heart, a right-sided heart. And for most people with this condition, it causes no problems whatsoever. The heart works perfectly fine. It's just flipped, like writing with your left hand instead of your right. Different, but not wrong. Sometimes dextrocardia occurs in isolation. The heart is reversed, but everything else is normal. Sometimes it's part of a larger condition called situs inversus, where all the major organs are mirrored. The liver on the left instead of the right. The appendix on the left instead of the right. Everything backwards. People with complete situs inversus usually live completely normal lives. Their organs are just organized differently. Many people with dextrocardia don't even know they have it until a doctor listens to their chest and can't find the heartbeat where they expect it, or until they get a chest X-ray for some unrelated reason and the technician does a double take. The heart, it turns out, is flexible, adaptable. It works just as well on the right as on the left. Location doesn't matter. What matters is the rhythm, the beat, the steady, faithful work of keeping you alive. The heart produces its own hormone, atrial natriuretic peptide, that helps regulate blood pressure. For a long time we thought of the heart as just a pump, a mechanical device. Blood goes in, blood goes out. Simple, elegant. But then, in the 1980s, researchers discovered something surprising. The heart isn't just a pump, it's also a gland, an organ that produces hormones. The hormone is called atrial natriuretic peptide, or ANP. It's made by cells in the atria, the upper chambers of the heart. When the heart senses that blood volume is too high, when the atria are being stretched too much by incoming blood, the cells release ANP into the bloodstream, and ANP travels to the kidneys, where it sends a message: get rid of some salt and water, lower the blood volume, reduce the pressure. It's a feedback loop. The heart monitors its own workload and adjusts the system accordingly. If there's too much blood, too much pressure, the heart doesn't just passively accept it, it acts. It sends chemical signals to other parts of the body, coordinating a response. This discovery changed how we think about the heart. It's not just receiving orders from the brain or responding mechanically to physical forces. It's participating in the regulation of the body. It's communicating. It's part of a complex network of organs that talk to each other, that share information, that work together to maintain balance. The heart isn't a slave to the system. It's a player, active, intelligent, in its own way. Your heart rate increases before you wake up, preparing your body for the day ahead. Even in sleep, your body is preparing, planning, getting ready for the moment when you open your eyes and the day begins. And one of the first things to change is your heart rate. In the early morning hours, while you're still asleep, maybe still dreaming, your heart begins to beat faster. Your blood pressure rises. Stress hormones like cortisol start to flood your system. This is called the morning surge, and it happens in the hour or two before you wake up. Your body knows somehow that morning is coming, and it's getting ready. How does it know? Partly it's your circadian rhythm, your internal clock, which tracks the cycle of day and night even in complete darkness. Partly it's environmental cues, light beginning to filter through the curtains, sounds from outside, subtle changes in temperature. Your brain processes these signals unconsciously and begins to rouse the body from its deepest rest. The heart responds. It picks up the pace. It starts delivering more oxygen, more energy to muscles that will soon need to move. By the time you actually wake up, your cardiovascular system is already primed, already awake, in a sense, even if you're not. It's considerate, isn't it? The way your body takes care of you. The way it anticipates what you'll need and starts preparing before you even ask. The heart doesn't wait for you to wake up and demand action. It's already there, already ready. A faithful servant working through the night. The left ventricle, which pumps blood to your entire body, has the thickest muscular wall of all heart chambers. If you could see your heart in cross-section, one thing would be immediately obvious. The left ventricle, the lower chamber on the left side, has walls that are much thicker than any other part of the heart, 2 or 3 times thicker than the right ventricle. Dense, powerful muscle. This isn't an accident. The left ventricle has the hardest job. It needs to pump blood to your entire body, from your brain down to your toes, through 60,000 miles of blood vessels. It needs to generate enough pressure to push blood up to your head when you're standing, enough force to perfuse the farthest capillaries in your extremities. That requires strength, serious, sustained strength. The right ventricle, by contrast, only needs to pump blood to your lungs, a short distance, lower pressure, so its walls are thinner. It's built for a gentler task. But the left ventricle, it's built like a powerhouse. Thick, muscular walls that can generate enormous pressure with every contraction. When the left ventricle fails, when it weakens or becomes diseased, the consequences are severe. Blood backs up into the lungs. The body doesn't get enough oxygen. It's called left-sided heart failure, and it's one of the most serious cardiac conditions, because the left ventricle is the workhorse, the foundation. When it struggles, everything struggles. But most of the time, it doesn't struggle. It just works. Squeezing and relaxing, generating pressure, moving blood, sustaining every cell in your body. The strongest chamber in your heart, doing the hardest work, without complaint, without rest, for as long as you live. Couples' heartbeats can synchronize when they're in close proximity or holding hands. There's something happening when 2 people are close, something beneath the surface of conscious awareness, something that shows up on monitors and sensors but that we can't quite see with our eyes. Their hearts begin to beat together, and researchers at the University of California discovered this in a study of romantic couples. When partners sat near each other, not even touching, just in the same room, their heart rates began to synchronize. The effect was stronger when they held hands, stronger still when they gazed into each other's eyes. The hearts would find each other's rhythm and begin to pulse in harmony. It's not perfect synchronization. The hearts don't beat at exactly the same moment, but the patterns align. The rhythms converge, and the longer the couple has been together, the more pronounced the effect seems to be, as if the hearts have learned each other, as if they've practiced this dance so many times that it's become second nature. We don't fully understand the mechanism. It might be electromagnetic, the heart's electromagnetic field influencing the other person's nervous system. It might be behavioral, unconscious mimicry of breathing patterns, which affects heart rate. It might be emotional, a sense of safety and connection that puts both people into a similar physiological state. But whatever the mechanism, the effect is real. Hearts can synchronize, beat together, create a shared rhythm, 2 separate organs in 2 separate bodies, finding a common tempo. It's one of the most beautiful things about human connection. The way we affect each other, not just emotionally or mentally, but physiologically. at the level of cells and electricity and muscle. Me at the level of the heart. The heart of a shrew beats over 1,000 times per minute due to its extremely high metabolism. The shrew is one of the smallest mammals on Earth. Some species weigh less than a dime, and they live fast, desperately, impossibly fast. Their metabolism is so high that they have to eat almost constantly. Some shrews consume more than their own body weight in food every single day. If they go just a few hours without eating, they can starve to death. To fuel this frantic metabolism, their hearts race. Over 1,000 beats per minute. That's more than 16 beats every second. If you tried to count them, you couldn't. It would be a blur, a continuous vibration. The shrew's heart doesn't beat so much as it hums, trembles, quivers with constant motion. This isn't sustainable for long. Shrews live short lives, usually only a year or two. Their hearts can't maintain this pace indefinitely, but while they're alive, they're alive. Moving constantly, hunting constantly, eating constantly. Their whole existence is a sprint with a heart racing to keep up. It's a different kind of life than ours. We're built for endurance, for decades of steady, moderate activity. The shrew is built for intensity, for burning bright and fast. Neither is better or worse. They're just different solutions to the same problem: how to stay alive, how to keep the cells fed, the blood moving, the rhythm going. The shrew does it at 1,000 beats per minute. You do it at 70 or 80, but you're both doing the same thing in the end, living. One heartbeat at a time. Ancient Aristotle believed the heart was the seat of intelligence, while the brain merely cooled the blood. Aristotle was one of the greatest minds in human history, a philosopher, a scientist, a teacher who shaped Western thought for millennia, but he got the heart and brain backwards. He believed the heart was where thinking happened, where intelligence lived. The brain, to him, was just a radiator, a cooling system to keep the hot blood from overheating the body. It seems absurd to us now. We know the brain is the center of thought, of consciousness, of everything that makes us us. But think about Aristotle's perspective. He didn't have MRI machines or EEGs. He couldn't see brain activity. What he could observe was this: the heart responds to emotions. It races when you're afraid. It pounds when you're in love. It aches when you're sad. The heart seems alive, reactive, aware. The brain, by contrast, just sits there, cold, still, seemingly inert. So Aristotle concluded that the heart must be the seat of the soul. The brain was secondary, supportive, just there to cool things down. And for more than 1,000 years, many people believed him. The heart as the center of human experience, the source of thought and feeling and self. And we know better now. But the language persists. We still talk about knowing something in your heart, about following your heart, about heartfelt emotions. We still, in some deep cultural way, associate the heart with the essence of who we are. Aristotle may have been wrong scientifically, but metaphorically, symbolically, maybe he was onto something. The heart isn't where we think, but it is, in a sense, where we feel our own aliveness, where we sense the rhythm of our existence. And maybe that's its own kind of intelligence. Your heart's electrical activity can be detected several feet away from your body. You are electric. not metaphorically, literally. Your heart generates electrical impulses with every beat, and those impulses create an electromagnetic field that radiates outward from your chest. It's the strongest electromagnetic field produced by any organ in your body, and it's detectable several feet away. Researchers using sensitive magnetometers, devices that measure magnetic fields, have detected heart signals from distances of 3, 4, even 5 feet. The field weakens with distance, of course, but it's there, an invisible aura of bioelectricity surrounding you, pulsing with the rhythm of your heart. This field isn't just random noise, it contains information. The pattern of the electromagnetic waves corresponds to the pattern of your heartbeat, and it changes depending on your emotional state, your health, your level of stress or calm. In a sense, your heart is broadcasting information about you into the space around you, whether you know it or not. Can other people sense this field? Probably not consciously. We don't have magnetic field receptors like some birds and sea creatures do, but there's some evidence that we might pick up on it subconsciously, that we might feel each other's presence, each other's emotional states. Through these invisible electromagnetic signals, it's still speculative, but it's tantalizing. The idea that we're all connected, not just socially or emotionally, but electrically. That our hearts are reaching out to each other in ways we can't see or measure but might, somehow, still feel. The heart muscle can regenerate to a very limited extent, but nowhere near the degree that skin or liver can. Your liver is remarkable. You can remove up to 70% of it, and it will grow back. Within months, sometimes weeks, it will regenerate the lost tissue, restoring itself to full size and function. Your skin does this too in a different way. Cut yourself, and new skin grows to close the wound. Cells divide, migrate, rebuild. But the heart barely regenerates at all. When heart muscle is damaged, during a heart attack for instance, when part of the muscle dies from lack of oxygen, it doesn't grow back. Instead, it's replaced by scar tissue, fibrous, non-contractile tissue that doesn't beat, doesn't help pump blood. The heart adapts, with remaining healthy muscle working harder to compensate. But the lost tissue is lost forever. Scientists aren't entirely sure why this is. Cardiac muscle cells, for the most part, stop dividing shortly after birth. They're in what's called a post-mitotic state. They've exited the cell cycle and committed to their role as mature heart muscle cells. This gives them stability, reliability. They're not constantly dividing and potentially making errors. But it also means they can't easily replace themselves when they're damaged. There is some regeneration. Studies suggest that adult hearts replace about 1% of their cardiac muscle cells per year when we're young, declining to about 0.5% per year by old age. But it's incredibly slow. Nowhere near enough to repair major damage. The heart sacrifices regenerative ability for reliability. It's built to beat continuously without fail for decades, and for that it needs stable, durable cells that don't change. The trade-off is that once those cells are damaged, they're gone. The heart remembers its injuries, it carries them as scars, and it keeps beating anyway. A child's heart is about the size of a walnut when they're born. Picture a walnut, still in its shell, roughly oval, fitting easily in the palm of your hand. That's about the size of a newborn's heart. Maybe a little bigger, maybe a little smaller, but roughly that size. This tiny organ, no bigger than a large nut, is responsible for pumping blood through a newborn's entire body. And it does, remarkably well. A newborn's heart beats fast, 120 to 160 times per minute, but it's strong, efficient. It's been practicing, after all, for months in the womb. By the time a baby's born, their heart has already been beating for more than half a year. It knows what it's doing. Over the next 18 years, that walnut-sized heart will grow, gradually, steadily. By the time a person reaches adulthood, their heart will be about 5 times larger, the size of a fist. But the growth happens slowly, keeping pace with the body. The heart always stays proportional, always the right size for the job it needs to do. There's something tender about this, isn't it? Imagining that tiny heart working so hard in such a small chest, beating away in a newborn baby, keeping them alive through those first vulnerable months, and then growing year by year. As the child grows, as they learn to walk, to run, to play, the heart growing with them, always there, always faithful, from walnut to fist, from infant to adult, the same heart, just bigger. The sound of your heartbeat can put babies to sleep because it reminds them of being in the womb. For 9 months, a developing baby lives in a world of sound, not silence. The womb is surprisingly noisy. There's the rush of blood through the placenta, the gurgle of the mother's digestive system, the muffled sounds of voices and music from outside, and beneath it all, constant and rhythmic, the mother's heartbeat, lub-dub, 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 over and over, about 70 or 80 times a minute. It's the soundtrack of prenatal life, the rhythm that accompanies every moment of development, from a cluster of cells to a fully formed baby. By the time they're born, babies have heard their mother's heartbeat millions of times, and they remember, or at least their bodies remember, when you hold a crying baby against your chest. When they can hear your heartbeat, they often calm down. The rhythm soothes them. It's familiar, safe, a sound that, on some deep pre-verbal level, means everything is okay. You're here, you're safe, the world is as it should be. This is why skin-to-skin contact is so important for newborns, why babies sleep better on their parents' chests, why the sound of a heartbeat, even a recorded one, can help settle a fussy infant. It's primal, evolutionary, a connection to the first environment they ever knew. The sound that meant home before home was a place, before it was anything but the steady, faithful beating of someone else's heart. Your heart rate drops significantly during deep sleep, sometimes to 40 to 50 beats per minute. When you sleep, especially when you sink into the deepest stages of sleep, the stages where your body does most of its repair work, where growth hormone is released, where memories are consolidated, your heart slows down significantly. In deep sleep, your heart rate can drop to 40 or 50 beats per minute, sometimes even lower. This is normal, healthy even. It's your body's way of resting. During the day, your heart works hard, responding to stress, to movement, to the demands you place on it. But at night, in deep sleep, those demands disappear. Your muscles relax, your blood pressure drops, Your breathing becomes slow and regular, and your heart, sensing that it doesn't need to work so hard right now, slows down. This nighttime slowdown is essential. It gives your cardiovascular system a chance to recover, to repair small amounts of wear and tear on blood vessels, to reset. Think of it like letting an engine idle instead of running at full throttle. It's still working, still functioning, but it's not under strain. It's coasting. People who don't get enough deep sleep, who sleep poorly or wake frequently, miss out on this recovery time. Their hearts don't get to rest. Over time, and this can contribute to cardiovascular problems, but when you sleep well, when you sink into that deep restorative sleep, your heart gets exactly what it needs. A few hours of gentle, easy rhythm, a break from the demands of waking life, and in the morning it's ready to begin again. The heart has a unique type of muscle called cardiac muscle, found nowhere else in the body. You have 3 types of muscle in your body. Skeletal muscle, which moves your bones and lets you walk, lift, gesture. Smooth muscle, which lines your organs and blood vessels and works automatically without conscious control. And cardiac muscle, heart muscle, found in one place, and one place only, your heart. Cardiac muscle is strange. It's like a hybrid of the other 2 types. Like skeletal muscle, it's striated, striped with bands of contractile proteins that give it strength and power. But like smooth muscle, it works automatically, without conscious thought. You can't will your heart to beat the way you can will your arm to move. It has its own rhythm, its own control system. What makes cardiac muscle truly unique is the way the cells are connected. They're joined by structures called intercalated discs, specialized junctions that allow electrical signals and small molecules to pass directly from one cell to another. This means the cells can communicate instantly. When one cell receives a signal to contract, it passes that signal to its neighbors, and they pass it to their neighbors, creating a wave of contraction that sweeps across the heart in a coordinated squeeze. It's beautiful, mechanically speaking, efficient, reliable. The cells aren't acting independently, they're acting as a unit, as a single coordinated muscle. And because of this design, the heart can beat billions of times over a lifetime without the cells getting out of sync, without the rhythm breaking down. They're locked together, electrically coupled, beating as one. A choir where every voice knows exactly when to sing. In ancient Egypt, the heart was weighed against the feather of truth in the afterlife judgment. The ancient Egyptians had a profound relationship with the heart. They believed it was the seat of the soul, the part of you that contained your essence, your memories, your moral worth. And in the afterlife, the heart would be judged. The scene is depicted in the Book of the Dead, an ancient Egyptian funerary text. The deceased person stands before Osiris, god of the afterlife, in the Hall of Two Truths. Anubis, the jackal-headed god, places the person's heart on one side of a golden scale. On the other side sits a feather, the feather of Maat, goddess of truth, justice, and cosmic order. If your heart is light, unburdened by sin, cruelty, lies, it will balance perfectly with the feather. You've lived a good life, you've spoken truth, you've treated others with kindness. Your heart reflects this. You're granted passage to the field of reeds, a paradise where you'll live forever in peace. But if your heart is heavy, weighed down by wrongdoing, by the accumulated weight of your misdeeds, it will tip the scale, and if it does, the consequences are dire. A Mit, a demon with the head of a crocodile, the torso of a lion, and the hindquarters of a hippopotamus, waits nearby. She devours the heavy heart. The person ceases to exist. Not punishment exactly, just erasure, oblivion. It's a powerful metaphor, isn't it? The idea that your heart carries the weight of your choices, that it remembers, that it keeps a record, and that record matters. We know now that the heart doesn't literally store memories or moral worth. That's the brain's domain. But the Egyptians weren't entirely wrong. The heart does respond to how you live, to stress and peace, to love and hatred, to the choices you make every day. Maybe not morally, but physiologically. Your heart knows the life you've lived. In its own way, it keeps score. Your heart pumps oxygen-depleted blood to your lungs, where it picks up fresh oxygen with every breath you take. There's a beautiful partnership happening inside you right now. Your heart and your lungs, working together, have been collaborating since the moment you were born. Every breath you take, every beat of your heart, they're connected, coordinated, dependent on each other. Here's how it works. Your body's cells are constantly using oxygen to produce energy. As they do, they create carbon dioxide as a waste product. This carbon dioxide-rich blood, dark, almost purple in color, returns to the right side of your heart. The heart doesn't send it back out to the body. That would be pointless. Instead, it pumps this tired blood to your lungs. In your lungs, something magical happens. The blood flows through tiny capillaries that wrap around even tinier air sacs called alveoli. The walls are incredibly thin, so thin that gases can pass through them. Carbon dioxide moves from the blood into the air sacs, where you breathe it out, and oxygen from the air you just inhaled moves in the opposite direction, dissolving into the blood. Now the blood is bright red again, rich with oxygen, ready to fuel your cells. It returns to the left side of your heart, which pumps it out to your body, and the cycle continues. This is happening right now, with every breath, with every beat. Your heart sending blood to your lungs to be refreshed over and over thousands of times a day. A partnership that's been running since your first cry as a newborn and will continue until your final breath. The heart's coronary arteries supply it with its own dedicated blood flow, separate from the blood it pumps. Here's a strange paradox. Your heart is full of blood. Every second it's pumping blood through its chambers, moving gallons of oxygen-rich blood to the rest of your body. And yet, the heart muscle itself can't use that blood. It can't extract oxygen from the blood passing through its chambers. It needs its own supply, its own dedicated circulation. This supply comes from the coronary arteries, small vessels that branch off from the aorta, the main artery leaving the heart, and wrap around the outside of the heart muscle like a crown, which is what coronary means, crown-like. These arteries dive into the heart muscle, branching into smaller and smaller vessels, delivering oxygen and nutrients directly to the cardiac muscle cells. It's a separate system, a private circulation just for the heart. and it's absolutely critical. When a coronary artery gets blocked by a blood clot, by plaque buildup, the heart muscle downstream from the blockage doesn't get oxygen. The cells start to die. This is a heart attack, a myocardial infarction, and depending on which artery is blocked and how much muscle dies, it can be devastating. The heart gives everything to the body. It pumps blood tirelessly to every organ, every tissue, every cell, but it can't sustain itself on what it gives to others. It needs to be fed too. It needs its own lifeline. The coronary arteries are that lifeline. Small vessels with an enormous responsibility, keeping the pump alive so the pump can keep everything else alive. Octopuses have 3 hearts. 2 pump blood to the gills, while 1 pumps it to the rest of the body. Sometimes evolution finds unexpected solutions. The octopus, for instance, doesn't have 1 heart. It has 3. 3 separate organs working together, each with its own job. 2 of the hearts are called branchial hearts. They sit near the gills, 1 on each side. Their job is simple: pump blood to the gills where it can pick up oxygen from the water. These hearts are small, specialized, focused entirely on oxygenation. The 3rd heart is called the systemic heart. So it receives oxygen-rich blood from the gills and pumps it to the rest of the body, the muscles, the organs, the brain. This is the main pump, analogous to our single heart, though it's structured differently, more like a muscular tube than a chambered organ. Here's the interesting part. When an octopus swims, the systemic heart stops beating. It just shuts off. Swimming takes too much energy, and apparently the octopus's cardiovascular system can't support both swimming and full body circulation at the same time, so octopuses prefer to crawl along the ocean floor, where all 3 hearts can work together efficiently. It's such a different solution than ours. We have 1 heart with multiple chambers. The octopus has multiple hearts, each specialized. Neither is better or worse. They're just different ways of solving the same problem: how to move blood, how to deliver oxygen, how to keep the organism alive in its particular environment, and somehow, despite being so different from us, boneless, 8-armed, living underwater, the octopus still needs what we need: circulation, rhythm, a pump that keeps going. The broken heart emoji actually looks more anatomically correct than a real heart does. We all know the symbol, the classic heart shape, symmetrical, smooth, with a curved bottom and 2 rounded lobes at the top. You see it on Valentine's Day cards, or in text messages tattooed on skin. It's universal, instantly recognizable, and it looks nothing like a real heart. A real heart is lumpy, asymmetrical, kind of bulbous at the top where the great vessels emerge, narrower at the bottom where the apex points to the left. It's muscular, organic, irregular. There's nothing smooth or romantic about it. It looks like, well, like meat, like an organ, which is what it is. So where did the heart symbol come from? No one knows for sure, and some scholars think it might have originated from the shape of ivy leaves, which in ancient Greece were associated with fidelity and eternal love. Others think it might come from the shape of a woman's body, hips, buttocks, viewed from certain angles. Still others suggest it's based on the silphium plant, used in ancient times as a contraceptive, its seeds shaped roughly like the heart symbol. Whatever its origin, the symbol has endured. It's become more real, in a cultural sense, than the actual organ. When we think of the heart as a concept, love, emotion, courage, we picture the symbol, not the anatomical reality. And maybe that's okay. Maybe we need both. The messy, irregular biological heart that keeps us alive, and the smooth, perfect symbolic heart that represents everything we feel. Two hearts, one literal, one metaphorical, both essential. Your heart can sense changes in blood chemistry and adjust its rate accordingly, even without nerve signals. Your heart is smarter than you might think. It doesn't just sit there passively, waiting for the brain to tell it what to do. It's actively monitoring, sensing, making decisions on its own. The heart has specialized cells, chemoreceptors, that can detect changes in blood chemistry. They sense oxygen levels, carbon dioxide levels, pH, even concentrations of certain hormones and electrolytes. And when these cells detect a change, they can trigger the heart to adjust its rate directly, without waiting for a signal from the brain. For example, if carbon dioxide levels in the blood rise, maybe because you're exercising or holding your breath, the heart can sense this and speed up, pumping blood faster to help clear the CO2 and deliver more oxygen. If oxygen levels drop, the heart responds similarly. It's reactive, adaptive, autonomous. This is separate from the nervous system's control. Yes, the brain can influence heart rate through the sympathetic and parasympathetic nerves, but even if you severed those nerves, the heart would still be able to respond to chemical changes in the blood. It has its own intelligence, its own awareness in a sense. Not consciousness, nothing like that, but a kind of local, cellular responsiveness that allows it to function independently. It's a reminder that your heart isn't just following orders, it's participating in the process of staying alive. It's sensing the environment, making adjustments, adapting in real time. A partner in survival, not just a tool. During pregnancy, a woman's blood volume increases by 40 to 50%, and her heart pumps significantly harder. Pregnancy transforms the body in profound ways. One of the most dramatic changes happens in the cardiovascular system. Within weeks of conception, a woman's blood volume starts to increase. By the end of pregnancy, she'll have 40 to 50% more blood than she did before. Nearly half again as much. Why? Because now she's sustaining 2 lives. The developing baby needs oxygen, nutrients, waste removal, and all of that flows through the placenta, which is supplied by the mother's blood. Her circulatory system has to expand to meet this demand, and her heart has to work harder. Cardiac output, the amount of blood the heart pumps per minute, increases by 30 to 50% during pregnancy. The heart beats faster, maybe 10 to 20 beats per minute more than normal, and with each beat, it pumps more blood. The heart enlarges slightly to accommodate this increased workload. For most women, this is manageable. The heart is strong, adaptable, it rises to the challenge. But for some, women with pre-existing heart conditions, or those who develop pregnancy-related complications, the extra strain can be dangerous. The heart can struggle under the increased demand. After delivery, the cardiovascular system gradually returns to normal. The blood volume decreases, the heart rate slows. The heart shrinks back to its pre-pregnancy size, but for those 9 months the heart works overtime, sustaining 2 lives with 1 pump. It's extraordinary, a testament to the heart's capacity to adapt, to scale up when needed, to meet whatever demands are placed upon it. Some people can consciously control their heart rate through meditation and breathing techniques. For most of us, heart rate is automatic, involuntary. We can't speed it up or slow it down just by thinking about it, but some people can. Experienced meditators, practitioners of certain breathing techniques, people who've trained for years, they can consciously influence their heart rate, raising or lowering it by 10, 20, even 30 beats per minute. How? Through the autonomic nervous system. Normally, this system works below conscious awareness. It's automatic, hence the name. But the autonomic nervous system has 2 branches: sympathetic, which speeds the heart up, and parasympathetic, which slows it down. And it turns out you can influence these branches indirectly through breathing. When you take slow, deep breaths, especially when you exhale for longer than you inhale, you activate the parasympathetic nervous system. The vagus nerve, which connects the brain to the heart, releases signals that slow the heart down. You can feel it if you pay attention. Breathe in. Your heart speeds up slightly. Breathe out slowly, your heart slows. Meditators take this further. They learn to breathe in specific patterns, to focus their attention in ways that maximize parasympathetic activation. Some can slow their heart rate to 40 or 50 beats per minute while sitting still and awake. Others can raise it back up through rapid breathing or visualization techniques that activate the sympathetic system. It's a bridge. A rare connection between voluntary and involuntary control. A reminder that the boundary between conscious and unconscious isn't as firm as we think. The heart is automatic, yes, but with practice, with attention, with skill, you can reach across that boundary and touch it, influence it, participate in its rhythm, if only for a moment. The heart forms a twisted loop during development called the cardiac loop. There's a moment in development, around day 23 after conception. When you're barely a millimetre long, when something crucial happens. This straight tube that will become your heart begins to twist. It folds. It loops back on itself in a complex 3-dimensional transformation called the cardiac loop. This isn't random. The looping follows a precise pattern determined by chemical signals and genetic instructions that have been refined over hundreds of millions of years. The tube bends to the right usually. It curves back, creating what will eventually become the chambers and vessels of the mature heart. Certain segments bulge outward. These become the atria and ventricles. Other segments narrow. These become valves and connecting passages. It's choreographed in a sense, a dance of cells and tissues folding and twisting in the darkness of the womb, guided by molecular cues that tell each part where to go, what to become. And most of the time, almost every time, it happens exactly right. The loop twists in the correct direction. The chambers form in the correct positions. The heart develops normally, but occasionally the loop twists the wrong way, to the left instead of the right. When this happens, you get mirror image anatomy, dextrocardia. the heart on the right side. Sometimes just the heart is reversed. Sometimes everything is reversed, situs inversus totalis, and usually, remarkably, it all works fine anyway. The heart functions normally, just backwards. It makes you appreciate the precision of development, how specific every step has to be, how many things could go wrong but usually don't. A tube twisting in a particular direction at a particular time, guided by invisible forces, becoming the organ that will sustain you for your entire life. It's happening right now in thousands of developing embryos around the world. The cardiac loop forming, hearts being born. Your heart rate increases when you're afraid before you consciously register the danger. Here's something unsettling. Your heart knows you're in danger before you do, before your conscious mind has time to process what's happening, before you feel the fear, before you can even name what's wrong. Your heart is already responding, already preparing you. It works like this. Your senses, vision, hearing, smell, send information to a part of your brain called the amygdala. The amygdala is ancient, evolutionarily speaking. It processes threats quickly, instinctively, without the need for conscious deliberation. And when it detects something potentially dangerous, a sudden movement in your peripheral vision, an unexpected sound, anything that might be a threat, it immediately sends signals to your adrenal glands. The adrenal glands release adrenaline. Your heart rate spikes. Your blood pressure rises. Blood flow shifts from your digestive system to your muscles. You're being prepared for action, fight or flight. All of this happens in a fraction of a second, before your conscious mind catches up, before you think, oh, that might be dangerous. Then, a moment later, your conscious awareness arrives. You feel the fear. Your heart is already pounding. Your body is already primed. And you think you're reacting to the threat, but really, you're reacting to what your body already did, what your heart already knew. It's a survival mechanism. Consciousness is slow. Deliberation takes time if you had to consciously recognize